This would appear to be you cannot access this feature at the moment. Jack Sprat. You become acquainted with the greatest book critic of all time. A new book has appeared on the third shelf down. You've located the correct book. You pluck it from the shelf and read its title, Treasure Island. What is this? There seems to be a lock binding the cover shut. The keyhole requires a small, thin key. That the key fits perfectly into the lock. You turn it and hear a soft click. The book is now open. Skimming through the book, you find that a map has been sketched onto the last page. Close scrutiny reveals it is a top-down layout of the castle and its surrounding grounds. According to this, the tiara has been buried near one of the graves. You shudder, hoping that this is not going to be a case of digging all night while trying to avoid unearthed zombies. There is also a small piece of writing near the bottom. A date of fate can be found with a first, a second, and a double of nothing.
I wish only one thing as payment for helping you find that book.
Of course.
Would you be so kind as to take this bracelet and place it on my mother's grave? I believe she wanted me to have it while I was alive. Now, it seems no longer appropriate to keep it. Thank you. I must retire now. It will not be long before sunrise. Good night, Graham.
Good night, Anastasia.
The ghosts waver, as if being threatened by even the slightest breeze, yet something holds them in place. It may be nothing more than an intensely strong determination or sense of purpose that keeps the spirits anchored to this world. As you hold up the bracelet, the ghosts seem to relax slightly. You wonder if it is now safe to approach them and enter the cemetery. You place the bracelet on the grave. It immediately sinks down into the earth. The ghosts do not respond at first. Then one of them drifts toward you. It nods, almost sadly. The ghost seems to want to say something but appears unable. Its face, though transparent and hazy, is lined with grief and torment. Its facial features waver into focus. The ghost is female.
We understand that our daughter will never be joining us now. No longer do we need wait for her. Now we journey to the realm of the dead, where its Lord waits to judge us. Farewell.
You bow your head and cross your heart out of respect. While looking downward, you notice that a beautiful gold ring now lies at your feet. You feel apprehensive. You lift the gold ring from the ground and carefully place it in your pocket. Lord Herbert and Lady Lillian, 1646 to 1668, loving parents of Anastasia, beloved son and daughter-in-law of Count Caldor and Countess Lavidia, our enemies be warned, their untimely deaths shall be avenged. This grave is centrally located within the cemetery. A stone gargoyle rests atop it. You see the name on the headstone and swallow hard. It says, Count Caldor, died 1646. Though you did not think it possible, you suddenly feel a lot colder. Susanna Somnia, 1195 to 1265. He had put her to bed after she'd had supper, but forgot next morning to stir and wake up her. Douglas Buckmaster, 995 to 1020. The noise, said he, is far too loud, as he discerned the maddened crowd. The mob broke in, then he did scream, I'd rather this a sight unseen. They strung him up from toe to head, and as for after, enough's been said. Mary Ann Drinkwater, 1230 to 1266. They had traveled safely for many a day, until crossing a bridge along their way, She lost her balance and fell to her fate. He tried to save her, but it was too late. Kitty, 1500 to 1510. Sudden did the illness come upon sweet Kitty, no longer young. There is nothing more that can be done. Her lives are up. She's had her fun. Tombs and crypts line the edge of this run-down cemetery. Though once grand and noble, years of neglect have obviously taken their toll on them. Arnold de Conan, 1045 to 1135. He won't be back. Samuel You Believe, 1255 to 1300. This young man sought to be holy, to save himself from being lowly. He joined the hood and wore their cloth, eventually died from professional sloth. Arnold de Conan. Boris and Olga. There was an old couple named Olga and Stovich, who in truth made quite a nice pair. They lived with each other for many long years, till they wound up in each other's hair. Date of death, 1567. Alfred Chamberlain, 810 to 810. He'd not seen his first sunrise, felt not the warmth of dawn. All who saw him wept and cried. To this world he'd come stillborn. Count Bartholomew Scrooge, 1017 to 1101. To warnings he would pay no mind. Of his failing, ailing health, his relatives they'd bide their time. After all, he had great wealth. Jacob Scarlett, 1354 to 1411. He would not rise from out of bed, not even to soothe his aching head. Should have heeded what the doctor said. It's too late now, for he is dead. This cemetery is one of the... This grave is... Count Christopher Ivere, 1175 to 1200. The young Ivere, his time so near, said he, my dear, lend me your ear. Please do not fear, my life ends here. You stop digging when your shovel hits something hard. It's you, King There is an open... Nervously, you reach down, open the coffin, and look inside. These bones have been here for so long that most of them have crumbled to dust. There is a tin box here. It contains personal items that belong to the coffin's occupant in life. You search through the belongings of the deceased. According to the headstone, they belong to a Count Christopher Ivere. After some tentative searching, you find a parchment. It appears to be the last will and testament of Larman Odnarb, healer. This isn't right. You run your eyes over the parchment. It's dated 1200, the same as the date on the headstone. However, the instructions pertaining to his burial were for Larman to be placed near his family at the church's cemetery. Oh dear. The boatman has nothing more to say. You have already paid the boatman's fare. You climb back into the decrepit rowboat, and the shrouded ghoul ferries you back across the lake. You read the Bible page again. Spiders earnest with spindly eight spin webs with negligible weight. My, what sharp claws! All the better to... You lift the pillow and look beneath it. To your surprise, you discover a small bottle of ointment. A label on the side reads, Wolfbane. Being very careful not to smash it, you take the ointment and put it in your pocket. Your heart beats faster and faster as you push on the handle of the church door. It opens, and you nervously step inside. Evidently, someone stands at the center of the symbol, as you can see some hair on that part of the floor. A large tapestry now adorns the wall behind the altar. The image on the tapestry bears a depiction of some kind of ceremony or ritual. It is somehow reminiscent of the room you are now standing in. You see a book sitting on the altar. It appears old and worn. You look over the book. It is a journal written by Lowolf, head monk of the Church of Kalima. Flipping through it, you see a paragraph with a name you recognize. You turn a few more pages and choose another interesting-looking paragraph. The journal largely contains many entries of similar types and of daily matters of a monk's life. You are about to replace the journal where you found it, but your eye catches a most peculiar passage. The passage ends abruptly. Though there are many pages left to be written on, it is evident that the final passage was written a number of years ago. How strange. You replace the journal, putting it back where you found it. The crucifix has been removed from its original place of prominence and now leans at a careless angle against the wall. Now you know why the windows are boarded up. You can imagine how the people of Kolyma would react if they glimpsed what really went on in this place. Rarlap Niven, 985 to 1015. The jester joked his life away until a quip he made one day insulted was a baron's son who had this poor old jester hung. Lester Williamson, 1300 to 1345. Here lies a man who feared all bugs, too scared to even lift his rugs. For if he had, he would have found insects that make little sound, with bites so deadly for their size that surely did cause his demise. In this dark hole lies one brave soul whose questing for glory has taken its toll. Charles Bucket, 1189 to 1232. He'd go out in the pouring rain and risk becoming wet. He'd never dry off afterwards, so very sick he'd get. Goulash Thompson, 1370 to 1441. Never in all his living years had he ever seen such sights. For hours did he stare at them, those beautiful, dazzling lights. So happy was he that he'd been able to live to see this night, but down a cliff he blindly fell, for the lights had been too bright. Rebecca Twintle, 1250 to 1273. In that usual daring way of hers, she threw caution to the wind. Late one eve she risked a venture and went out to sea with him. Totally in love she was, so filled with careless whim, that when he threw her overboard, she never thought to swim. Larman Odnarb, 1175 to 1200. Dear old Larman was a healer, cured many a deadly fever. One he caught that bitter day, healed not himself and passed away. You have no You stop digging when your shovel hits something hard. With bated breath, you open the box. There it is, the tiara. As you retrieve the tiara from its final resting place, you let out a loud, relieved sigh. You feel as if the coming sunrise will be the most glorious sight you will ever behold, considering how close you were to never seeing another again. Now don't delay, you still have to get it back to the castle. You freeze as the wolf's howl sends shivers down your spine. You force yourself to turn and face nothing. Your anxiety must be causing you to hear things. Liat O'Malif, 1200 to 1256. She was a lady with strange habits, who as friends kept only rabbits. When time came her hunger due, her friends all wound up in her stew. The other creatures, also bunnies, found this not remotely funny, so their swift revenge they sought. The kitchen in her sleep they brought, heaved her into the large pot, which was, regretfully, much too hot. Bridget O. Troublewater, 1248 to 1299. During the annual house inspection, she spied a mirror and its reflection. For days she lovingly gazed at it, unable to sleep or eat or sit. With the last of her earthly power, there she remained till her final hour. Hamish Bite, 1226 to 1258. Besides religious connotation, reverence paid daily as we should, it is a tradesman's irony that a carpenter was killed upon the wood. La Fleur Povence, 905 to 987. The power brought unto this world is as unholy as this sage. Doomed are those that have descended from the blood of a first mage. Coco Airboul, 1205 to 1252. The writer wrote until he bled. In his final agony he said, I will not lift my trusty pen till I at last have reached the end. Coco Airboul. This is the church cemetery. Given how many souls have been laid to rest over the many years, you imagine that this place has seen its share of sorrow. This melancholy thought does not relieve your anxiety, however. You'd best do what you've come to do and leave quickly. It is likely that only the most devout believers have been buried in there.